And we are live with our first episode ever of the Daredevil Born Again After Show. I'm your host, Dimithri Perera. We also got co-host Sara, aka Miss Marauder. Sara, welcome back to
Hello.
co-hosting.
Happy to be here.
It's been a while, right?
It has. It feels like it's been like 3 years, but it's probably just been since Acolyte?
Yes.
Skeleton Crew?
Skeleton Crew, we did one episode, I think.
Oh, yes.
I think at the end we did one episode, but Acolyte was the last of our after shows. And for anyone out there, if you're watching us live, you're watching us on youtube.com/The Keeg Show or twitch.tv/The Keeg Show. We're drawing the chat from YouTube. So if you're on YouTube, your comments will be seen. We started the after shows with WandaVision the beginning of 2021, and that's kind of how I met Sara coming into the chat, and then now look at you. You're the co-host.
You can just pester. I go to show. You can just pester someone into being your friend.
Yeah,
it works.
Yeah, because what's the worst that can happen? They're not gonna be your friend, and you don't lose anything. Are we pro-pester? We are not pro-pestering on this show.
I'm very pro-pestering personally.
I would say for friendship.
Okay.
Pestering to go out on a date, no, but pestering for friendship.
There's friend pests that are also not great too.
True. I pester all my friends.
Yeah. Who's that voice? If you're listening to the podcast, wherever you get your podcast from, and you're not watching us live on YouTube or Twitch, you can't see who our guest is. We got Cailin, aka Cailin.in.character.
Yeah, that's new.
Yeah. I had to change your little thing at the bottom.
Yeah. Because I think this is the first time I've been on the show since I changed my username.
Yeah. Because the last time you were the artist formerly known as Cailin. So welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
I'm glad to have you. We are going to be talking about episodes 1, 2, and 3 of Daredevil Born Again, because this is the first episode of this after show, but it's not the first episode of the season. We just didn't do an after show last week. Because we don't do after shows for every single show ever made by Disney or Marvel or anything. But this show I thought deserved an after show. So, welcome everybody. Also, welcome to Brent Lloyd out there on YouTube, saying haven't watched it yet, but happy birthday, Miss Marauder.
Is it your birthday?
It is my birthday.
Mm-hmm. Oh my god, happy birthday.
In fact, I did watch the episode on mute in islands while I waited for my food. Family. Because it is my birthday.
That's dedication.
And then I ate a free birthday dessert, and now I'm here.
I am sorry for asking you to co-host on your birthday. So
no, I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy you're here too. So let's talk about, I want to rush in and talk about episode 3, because that's what we literally just watched. And sorry, Brent, if you haven't watched these episodes yet. You gotta watch them, and then you don't get spoiled, But let's rewind. Let's rewind a little bit, because there's things to talk about, obviously, about the first 3 episodes. But I want to ask you guys, this is kind of a sequel to the first 3 seasons of the Netflix show. And the question is, what were your guys' experiences with the Netflix show? And were you looking forward to this kind of sequel series? Whoever wants to go first.
Cailin, you go first.
Me go first? Okay. I actually did not watch the original series until I started watching it Christmas 2021. I don't remember when it actually originally came out. I want to say it was when I was in college. I seem to remember people talking about it, but I didn't watch it until literally 2-3 years ago. And it easily became one of my favorite Marvel projects ever, probably one of the best TV shows I've ever watched. So going into this new series, I was very excited.
Yeah, I mean, I was excited to see the sequel. I wasn't sure how they would pull it off and what they would do. And I do have thoughts that kind of come from this episode on that. But Sarah, were you a fan?
Yes, I watched it in 2015 when not to be like, I watched it when it first came out. But I was a big fan of all of those Netflix Marvel shows. So I was all in on Daredevil. I love Jessica Jones, love Luke Cage. I love the Iron Fist comics.
Yes.
Therefore to not love the Iron Fist show. Season 1, I think, is like a masterpiece. Season 2 is incredible. Season 3, I was kind of falling out of it by season 3.
For
Because
Daredevil?
at that point it was like, yeah. At that point it was like the Defenders, and then at that point it seemed as like fatiguey as the MCU, right? Where it was like, oh, yep, now you have to watch the Defenders to see where, this and this. And I was getting kind of annoyed.
And Defenders was kind of lackluster also.
Yeah.
So, and that's the problem with the series, is that like, the fact is you have to power through a lackluster spinoff in order to stay on course.
Yeah.
It's kind of
right.
You can't watch season 3 without the Defenders, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's real. I just tell people it's Daredevil season 2.5.
I mean, you could skip it. I would skip. If I had to rewatch or tell someone to rewatch, I would skip Defenders and just say that he got amnesia or whatever. Like, what I even forget what happens, because a lot of Daredevil is repetitive.
I mean, Elektra dies and he's depressed. He becomes like extra sad Catholic boy compared to previously just kind of sad Catholic boy.
Yeah. And it was the Born Again, a lot of the Born Again storyline, which is why it was like when they called it Daredevil Born Again, it was like, oh, we've already kind of done Matt stops being Daredevil, so there's a little bit of that. But I was famously the only person in my theater in Spider-Man No Way Home that screamed when Matt Murdock showed up. Like the second I saw the hand on the cane, I was like, ah! I was like, it's my boy's come home. Given how the Marvel shows have gone on Disney Plus, I was a little bit concerned, but like cautiously optimistic. And then all the like rewrites and showrunner changes, definitely concerned, but optimistic.
Yeah.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Cailin? You were gonna jump in.
Oh, I was gonna say it's funny because when I saw No Way Home, I had not watched Daredevil yet, but I knew he was, and within a week I was watching the show. So like I was still excited to see him, but I hadn't actually watched the show yet.
Yeah. I mean, it's been first thing, it's been a long time of just being an MCU fan, sure. And we're in this like nebulous kind of phase of the MCU, where they're trying to figure out like what can we do in the meantime while they're trying to like spin their wheels leading up to the Secret Wars or whatever. But Daredevil was the first Netflix show, and then it got 3 seasons plus Defenders, and it wasn't even the last Netflix show. The last Netflix show was Punisher season 2. And like we essentially haven't seen Daredevil since before the Netflix MCU stuff ended, right? Like, because he didn't appear in Punisher and he didn't appear in Jessica Jones season 3. He just kind of, season 3 of Daredevil, I think ended, I could be wrong, but I think it was Daredevil season 3, and then all the other shows got their final seasons. I could be wrong.
Maybe, I don't remember.
I could be wrong. But close enough was like Jessica Jones season 3 was after that. Punisher season 2 was after that. And so it was a long, long history. And then Daredevil pops up in No Way Home. And then we see Wilson Fisk pop up in Hawkeye. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we see Echo, and we've talked about it on this show. Not any of those people's fault, just that it went through crazy behind the scenes reshoots, rewrites, major editing things. Yeah. Echo wasn't my thing. So we see Wilson Fisk pop up there and then come back in this.
He appears in She-Hulk.
Does he?
Yeah.
Daredevil's in
Daredevil.
Shield.
Daredevil, you're right. I thought you
Yeah.
were saying Wilson Fisk. I
No,
actually,
no,
you're right.
Daredevil.
I forgot the yellow.
Yeah, he has
the
a whole
yellow costume.
episode. Yeah. I actually did not hate the mustard and ketchup look.
Because
I
it was
didn't hate
toned
it.
down.
It was toned down. It was classy. I liked his little walk of shame.
I like.
Yeah, we got
that
Happy
side of-
Matt. Happy Matt
We
Murdock.
got Happy Matt for a minute.
Yeah.
I like him happy.
Well, because my big problem with Daredevil, both the comics and the shows, is that it tends to be repetitive. It tends to be like he's just like, fine, God, I will stop being Daredevil. I promise you, God, I will stop. He always does this. He always makes a promise to God. He stops, and then he breaks his promise to God. And then he's like, I'm sorry, God, forgive me for breaking my promise to you. Next time I'll be better. And then...
Well, yeah, but also the whole premise of Catholicism is that you can do that as long as you say you're sorry.
Yep.
So...
Okay.
That tracks for me.
Yeah.
And that's why my mom's not Catholic anymore.
Because you can only say you're sorry so many times?
It was just complicated for her.
Fair.
As my dad says, there's a lot of dance steps.
What were your hopes going into episode 1 with Daredevil, Born Again? Also, just the title itself, it's not like the comic. It's just that the title seems like it would be it's thematically for the revival, kind of like Spider-Man Homecoming,
Right.
Did you guys have hopes or dreams or anything going into episode 1?
I did, and then they crushed those dreams 10 minutes in.
Oof. Can't have Happy Matt.
No.
I had no hopes and dreams. All I knew was that Charlie Cox was going to be on my screen again, and I was going to be happy. Like, if the show absolutely sucked, at least I'm watching Daredevil again, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I just
Netflix's Daredevil is a high bar, so I was like, I'm not going to think that it's going to be as good as that, because it's not going to recapture the magic of season 1. So I'm just gonna, get what I get and don't throw a fit, as I'm always telling my 8-year-old. So I was like, I set my expectations to 0.
That's fair.
And then I was delighted.
Were you gonna say something, Cailin?
No, I was gonna say that's a fair point. I mean, I didn't really know what to expect other than, because I know that when they originally announced it, it was not going to have most of the original cast. It was going to be pretty much like Charlie and Vincent, and everybody else was confirmed to not be in it. And then obviously like plans changed, and they were like, no, we're bringing everybody back, and they had those set photos, and now we know exactly what scene they were shooting during those photos.
But then again, right now they're not back. You know what I mean?
Well, they were, and now they're not.
So I'm a real devil's advocate in this conversation about, like, everyone's like, oh, it felt like we were yelling and yelling, oh, bring him back, and then they were like, here, damn, and then they killed him. And I was like, yeah, they wanted to make a show, you kept pestering them to bring the characters back, and they were like, okay, fine, we'll bring him back, but we're gonna fucking kill him. And I was like, fine, like, that's if they bullied you into bringing the characters back, it is your prerogative to then kill them 10 minutes into the first episode.
Yeah.
That's
but at least it like makes sense, because I feel like if the show had started without them at all, it would have just felt weird. So like at least there's there's like an explanation.
So I watched, someone had posted this and I was like, I don't know if it was real or not, but then I watched a little bit of the interview. Someone did an interview with the director for episodes 2 and 3, and he said episodes 2 and 3 were supposed to be the first 2 episodes before they did reshoots and stuff, and retooled it and then added in episode 1. And I was like, that makes so much sense. The way that oh god, I'm gonna call her what's her face, what's Heather, the way she brought up Foggy and was like, oh, your friend Foggy, you never talk about him. I was like, that was how they were going to tell us that Foggy had died.
Oh,
right, like that's how, like he was gonna have gone off screen, right? And it makes so much sense, because for me, when I was rewatching it today, I rewatched episode 1 and 2. this afternoon, and it definitely seemed like episode 1 was like a prologue, right? Or like, you know how sometimes in anime they'll do like I think about Jujutsu Kaisen. There was like Jujutsu Kaisen 0, which you have to watch. If there's some stuff in the first season that's not going to make sense if you don't watch the movie first, it kind of felt like that. Like, we have to get Fisk elected. We have to get Karen to San Francisco. We have to get Foggy in the ground. We have to get him to stop being Daredevil so that we can pick up episode 2. Fisk is the mayor. You know, he's got a new law practice.
Kirsten McDuffie,
which made total sense for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that once I was like, oh, of course, if that ends up not being true, I'll be like, okay, well then I'm done. But it makes total sense to me because it felt like that was like a table setting episode 1. I'm not upset with the table that they set, but it makes sense to be like, okay, we'll show you Foggy dying then.
You're illuminating things more for me, Sarah.
Yeah.
Like I didn't think of it that way, but it makes a lot of sense. Also, I was a little disappointed with episode 1. I thought it was like kind of shoddily put together. And I knew that because I was like, oh, okay, must be edits and all that stuff. The CGI wasn't quite as good. But it makes sense if this is something that they put together afterwards in a way.
Yeah.
You know?
Because they'd also like recast Vanessa, and there's a lot of like, you don't really see Fisk and Vanessa close to each other at all in the episode.
Yeah, so I had heard that. And then they brought the original actress back.
Yeah.
And I think that if you're finding yourself thinking like, I didn't like episode 1, but I like 2 and 3, I think it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I found episode 1 to be borderline unwatchable. Not borderline unwatchable, that's rude. But like I didn't mind. It came from my heart though. I don't mind the Foggy stuff. I'm okay with Foggy dying, and I'm okay with Karen going because I don't love Karen Page. I think Deborah Ann Wall is fantastic.
I met her at the airport recently.
She seems lovely.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I just don't like the character. But the whole like election of Wilson Fisk, how could anyone trust him? He's a criminal. I was like, it's too timely. I don't like it. Like, I don't want to watch that like on my TV in my fiction and my nonfiction. Like, I don't like, now that he's mayor and he's doing like the gangster mayor thing, I'm okay with it. But like the election part of it, of like, we have the hats with the logo, and I was like, it's too on the nose. It's unpleasant.
Yeah, it was like, can I just have a break?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you thought that was heavy-handed, I don't know if you saw Mickey 17, but
not yet.
Oh, not yet. I'm watching it tomorrow.
There's a lot going on. I like the movie.
At least there'll be 17 Robert Pattinsons to help me out.
Not a,
or two. I'm sorry, two main ones, right?
Who's to say?
That might be a wait for streaming thing for me.
I mean, it's cool to see in theaters. It is long though, so just keep that in mind.
I'm being picky about what I'm spending my money on lately.
That's fair. Though, I mean, director Bong Joon-ho is just really good at what he does. If you've seen Parasite or Snowpiercer.
It's that director?
Mm-hmm.
I did like Snowpiercer.
I wish I saw Snowpiercer in theaters. I'll say that. You know? I saw it on TV. With episode 1, here's what I was thinking going into episode 1 is that I didn't know what they were doing with Daredevil. I feel like if they went back to kind of the Netflix style, I'd be happy. And I also would have been happy if they went with a lighter style in like with She-Hulk, but like what Mark Waid wrote, because Mark Waid wrote Daredevil comics for a little bit, and that's where Kirsten McDuffie gets introduced, and Matt Murdock is in San Francisco practicing law, and it's just a much more acrobatic, kind of bolder Daredevil, right? But I didn't want them to do like a CW version where it's low budget and like you can just tell that like everything is kind of like just really quickly made. And so episode 1 was kind of scary to me. But it was cool to see Bullseye come in and do what he needed to do. I just wish it was better.
Yeah.
Also, just kill Bullseye. Like he hit the ground real bad.
No, like how did that man survive?
He has metal. He has like a metal like back or something, right?
Yeah,
Oh, I forgot about
they were
that.
doing surgery on him, and like it was like was it a post credit on season 3?
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
yeah.
Just kill him now.
How did season 3 end? Like Kingpin, well, Bullseye's back is broken. Kingpin goes to prison. Kingpin knows Matt is Daredevil, right?
Yeah, Matt
Mhm.
shows him his face. And is like, don't ever do crime again.
Crime doesn't pay.
Yeah, and he,
For
you know,
Whiskey does.
yeah, but he tells him not to go after Foggy or Karen, because that's why he
Yeah,
says in the diner, he says, like, I didn't have anything to do with that.
Yeah,
He says,
yeah.
like I promised, or I kept my promise or something.
yeah.
I don't trust him.
Was that diner scene in the first episode?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the first when he was still running because he hadn't been elected yet.
Yeah. How does the first episode end?
I think with his election.
Oh, when he's walking
Yeah.
down the street.
He's on a date and he
Yeah.
overhears it.
Matt's walking down the street, and Kingpin Fisk is like looking up over the city.
Yeah, it ends with him becoming mayor.
I think it's interesting when Disney, because this is obviously Disney Plus, when they release 2 episodes at once, because it means a couple of different things to me. One is either lack of faith in the first episode, or the fact that like the first 2 episodes are cohesively one thing, so you want to keep it like together.
Yeah.
I think it's the former for this one. I think they knew the first episode was not good. People were not going to be happy because episodes 2 and 3 are a cohesive story.
Yes.
Where does the second one pick up? Fisk is mayor in office. Does it pick up there?
He's mayor. That's when the whole subway scene happens? That's at the beginning of the first episode. I mean the second episode.
I think so. I think that's the opening scene of the second. I think
it is. Yeah, the opening scene
Yeah.
is the subway attack.
Okay. And we get this introduction of Hector Ayala, who is also the White Tiger.
Yes.
For people who know comic book lore, Hector Ayala is a character that is introduced, was introduced a long time ago, but more people know Hector's niece, Ava Ayala, as the White Tiger because she's been the White Tiger in like different cartoons and that sort of thing.
Okay.
And even more so in the comics, like Ava has been, I would dare to say Ava's been White Tiger longer than Hector was White Tiger in our continuity, in our lives.
And apparently also in the MCU, I would assume.
Well,
since we only got our short time with Hector.
So on that note, I don't know if you guys are aware, unfortunately, that actor is also no longer with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so sad, but he friggin' crushed it.
He did.
Genuinely an incredible,
yeah.
Just a fantastic, the performance was amazing.
Yeah, I was really sad I had read that he was only in those 2 episodes, which doesn't surprise me because I don't know exactly when filming wrapped on this show, but because I know they started filming in 23, and then of course the strike happened. And I don't know how quickly that got back to filming, but he died in December. So I don't know when filming wrapped, but I was bummed that he was only in those 2 episodes. I was kind of hoping to get more of him.
Because I know that the original idea for the show, they had said it was going to be more like a case of the week type thing. So the idea of getting Hector for just those 2 episodes and then moving on, that made sense to me. But yeah, I'm very sad to hear the actor had passed away, especially given not that I wouldn't be sad if his performance sucked, but especially because the performance was so moving. I will say,
right.
This is a very controversial thing to say, I let out more of a no, when he was killed at the end of this episode, it affected me more than Foggy getting killed.
I was I feel like
because of the real life kind of connection there?
No, because of the performance and because of the like fucking Matt told you can't be White Tiger anymore. He told you to
I know.
take it. Like this is gonna to like, and especially to have that victory for Matt in the courtroom was like so impactful. And it was just that thing of like, you know that he's not going to stop doing it. He just sat in a courtroom and heard sworn testimony from all the people that he saved the lives of. And he knows that he's doing good as White Tiger. And now you're going to tell him, don't ever put the suit back on.
Yeah.
Like, that's so, and the hypocrisy of Matt being like, no, it's okay. You'll just adjust to life without it, as if he could possibly be adjusting to life without being Daredevil.
Yeah.
The very like, love it when Matt Murdock lies to himself constantly.
Yeah. I do feel like Foggy's death affected me more, but that's I think partially because like that felt so unexpected. Like not like I was expecting them to kill off the character of Hector, but I knew that the actor wasn't around anymore for like potential, reappearances of the character. So like I in a way knew the character was gone, even if I didn't know that's how his character would be gone. Whereas Foggy, I was really hyped. Like I had literally like as I hit play on that first episode, I was excitedly telling my roommate, who's never watched the show until tonight, how excited I was that they like had the whole cast back together for this revival. And then it was like 10 minutes later, she heard me gasp. She's like, what happened?
Oh, no. See, I might have had it like spoiled for me because I didn't watch it that night and everyone was talking about like, it wasn't a spoiler, but they were saying like, oh, this is us 10 minutes into the episode. Like, oh, and I was like, okay, what could have happened? We're starting off with the three of them. What could happen in the first 10 minutes?
Yeah.
So I was already expecting something to happen, but I also think
I didn't see it coming.
Yeah, the drawn out way that Foggy dies as opposed to this like incredible sudden thing that happens to Hector by not Frank Castle. Hashtag not my Frank Castle.
Yeah, that's not Frank. I do. Oh, trust me, we are going to be talking about.
I was gonna say
some
like,
of the themes in this, but continue. Sorry.
They're making a statement with that.
Yeah.
I'm as someone, we will definitely talk about this more, but as someone who has worn my Punisher shirt with the page of Punisher holding the cop by his ankles and the cop says, "But I'm a cop," and Frank says, "Congratulations." I've worn that shirt in photos with both Charlie Cox and John Bernthal, and they both said, "I like your shirt." So I was like, once I saw in episode 2 the Punisher tattoo on the corrupt cop, I was like, oh, that's why Charlie Cox likes my shirt. He got real excited to see my shirt, and I was like, oh, because you guys are doing the Punisher beats the shit out of corrupt cops and tells them to stop using his symbol with the Blue Lives Matter flag on it.
Here's something that's really interesting, and I only noticed it, I only realized it as I was watching episode 3. Matt doesn't know they have those tattoos.
Yeah. Because they like the first time we see the tattoo is because he's fighting with Matt, and it's like zoomed in on his wrist as his wrist is like next to Matt's head, and of course Matt can't see that.
Matt can't see it, and like in the comics, they tried in the comics like sometimes they'll have Matt read a newspaper by putting his finger over the ink. I think that's super dumb. Like,
yeah, they can't.
I don't like like what? That doesn't make any sense. Like, funnily enough, yes, he has all these powers, but like reading a newspaper through the ink, like I feel like that should be the limit of his powers, which is he can't see two-dimensional things, right?
Let him be a realist to a degree, realistic representation of a real disability. Yeah. Like I'm okay with the heightened sentencing to a degree because some right, well, as powers, but also to a very limited degree, some blind people do experience heightened hearing or some, able to sense things around them.
Yeah.
To a very minuscule degree, not to the Daredevil degree. But yeah, I mean, if you're blind to the point that Matt Murdock is blind, you're reading Braille and nothing else.
I also don't want his powers to be so heightened that he can tell what color it is by feeling the wavelength of light, by how warm it is. Like it wouldn't.
No, like that defeats the purpose of him being blind.
Right. So I just realized that he couldn't tell. we see the Punisher things, and I feel like if he had known, he'd be putting things like connecting the
Yeah.
dots, right? And that's just something that I realized in episode 3. I'm scrolling through the episode of episode 2, and it does start off with Hector, the bus station, the train stations, the subway station scene, and then Matt meeting him in prison. And then we also have BB Urich. Are you guys interested in this upstart reporter who is the
No.
niece of the late Ben Urich from season 1?
I wish that I was interested in anything, but I'm not.
Yeah.
Which feels bad.
I think her plot line it's like every time they bring her up, I'm like, oh yeah, she's there.
Yeah.
And to a degree, her storyline feels realistic because like we've all seen reporters like that and like those little, accounts on TikTok.
Yeah.
But I don't see what purpose she serves to the overall plot.
She's a real well, I will say it did give me the one of the best lines in the entire show is that she's interviewing the guy and he says, "Do the strong have an obligation to help the weak?" Yeah, but they're kind of whiny about it. And I was like, that's hilarious.
I think she's our window into the people on the street, right? Like
it's the people on the street, but it's we already have the people on the street because here's the thing. I think we should be listening into Matt, listening to everybody, or doing the BB report, not both. Because I'm already overhearing way too much about how random people feel about vigilantes. That's what you just need to get the pulse of what people think about vigilantes and Fisk. That's where we're at. And for me, it's too much. The overhearing and the BB report. And it also is very heavy-handed on this is the theme of the episode. It's okay, we don't need another character who's most of her job is to just give you little sound bites that highlight the themes of the episode, right? Yeah. I don't need that.
I mean,
maybe some people.
I do want to point out that, Sarah, you made an unintended pun because maybe you do know, there was a short-lived comic book called The Pulse, and it was about Ben Urich's magazine or journalism, his newspaper or whatever that he starts.
Yeah.
So
yeah, if we don't have a super hearing person who's constantly tuned into the radio of everyone's conversations, then I think the BB report would be a nice but since we already do.
Yeah,
I think she's gonna serve a purpose because I think she's not only she's linked to Ben Urich, who died by Kingpin's hands, which
literally, yeah.
I hated that in season 1. I was like, I get in the narrative why they treated him so expendably, because that's to show how Wilson Fisk is. But he was such a good character.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Anyway, so I don't know what they're doing with BB Urich. I think this is the CW part that I am that's what I was talking about. I didn't want. And do I need I don't know if you guys are familiar with Perry White from the Daily Planet. Mm-hmm. Perry White has a grandchild who is really into TikTok journalism. And it's you know what I mean?
No, you have a point there.
It just seems CW.
No, but that's something that they would do in a CW show. They would give Perry White some sort of great granddaughter.
Yeah. Who's
it seems like she's doing stuff that we're already having people do. We have, I don't know his name, that obnoxious guy who is talking about, what all the kids are into, but seems to be 40 years old.
You're talking about
Gandolfini? Yeah. Who, I mean, it's probably because he's a Gandolfini that he looks 45 years old, but
Michael Gandolfini is the actor. Daniel Blake is the character.
Daniel Blake, right?
Is that the guy that connected BB to?
Yeah.
This? Oh, I don't like that guy.
She's saying
he does look 40.
the argument that he made when he first connected the two of them was she was saying like, I can get you connected to the young vote, but the young vote we've been told already overwhelmingly went for him, so why are we doing that, right? So it just seems like her connection to the plot is very tenuous,
Yeah.
which is not my favorite thing.
Yeah. I'm more interested in Daniel Blake because Daniel Blake is not a character in the comics. So whether that's his real name or not, I'm not quite sure. Also, I just think it's funny that he's in real life the son of, James Gandolfini, and then which is, kind of Fisky in Sopranos. And then also Fisk is in therapy in this show, like Tony Soprano is in his show. And like, I don't know, it's just there's a lot going on here. I don't think Daniel Blake is who he says he is. There's some theories out there who he could be. Have you guys heard any theories?
I haven't.
I've heard a theory that he's Fisk's son.
Fisk does have a son in the comics that he didn't know.
Oh.
And he comes back. Fisk has a couple of sons. One legitimate son, one illegitimate son. At the very least. There's also, in season 1, you have a mob boss named Leland Owsley. And in the comics, he's the Owl. And but they make mention that he's senior. Like Leland Owsley Sr. They mention it in like season 1. And then he dies. And this whole time, people are like, they've just kind of been waiting. Is the Owl gonna come into Daredevil? And could this be Leland Owsley Jr.? The Owl?
Having no context, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
We don't know. We don't know. There's no
It
clues.
seems like you'll have to do a lot of work to connect that, but I don't put that past them.
I just think
But also,
yeah.
part of me is like thinking about the overall structure, and if that's true that episode 1 was kind of a afterthought and it was supposed to be 2 and 3 as 1 and 2, it's very much starting to feel like we need, I mean, obviously Fisk is the main villain, so it feels like we've waited a long time, which is wild because it's only been a week, right, for Fisk to start doing more villainous stuff. Like, they really didn't keep us on the like, is he gonna actually be a good guy for very long before it was like, oh no, he's got scuffed up knuckles, he's threatening the commissioner, right? So it seemed like they did a lot of work in episode 1 to be like, oh, he might actually have turned a new leaf for him and meeting and be like, actually, I'm threatening to expose your secret son, I'm beating someone up, and now I'm like inciting people to shoot Hector Ayala in the head.
I don't think he has any part in that.
Really?
I don't think Wilson Fisk at the end of this episode.
No, I don't think he
3,
told them. I don't think he told them to do that, but I think that's kind of what he's like stoking.
Yeah. I don't know whether I don't think he's doing it directly. He's doing it indirectly, right?
Where have we seen that?
What's up?
I said, where have we seen that?
It's timely. It's a timely.
It's also in The Boys. Keep that in mind.
The Boys, I am
which is based on.
Yeah.
The Boys is also like, it's getting unwatchable. It's hard.
It's too real now.
It's a hard watch.
It's too close to reality.
Yeah. Let's talk about this police Hector Ayala situation, right? Because we find out that the informant, the guy was an informant. I hated that guy when he got up there and he said, "Oh no,
he's a little weasel."
This whole time they got you there on time, safe. The police were gonna kill him.
Yeah, multiple times they tried.
He must know the police were probably still gonna kill him. Like, that's a loose end.
Right.
Like, they're
because he
probably
could
gonna
give
kill
the
him.
truth at any point.
Right. let's rewind. Matt finds the guy in his apartment, tells the guy to run away. That Cherry, who's a new character, right? Is Cherry.
I like him. Yeah, I like him.
Yeah.
I feel like he's gonna be cannon fodder. He's just gonna be Ben Urich again.
Probably.
You know?
I was
Cherry's
real
gonna
scared.
die.
I was real scared for him in this episode.
Oh yeah.
I was too.
Real scared.
Yeah. Matt takes the beating until they pull the gun, and then he like turns it on and just like kicks all of their asses. Two of them at least.
That was a real triumphant moment for me. I was like so happy to see that when he was doing the like, you don't have to do this, please don't do this, you know, because I'm gonna. But I do think it again is stretching the limits of how much injury one person can take in the Daredevil universe before you kill them. Like those men are dead.
I thought that guy broke
that
his
man
neck.
on his neck. He is dead. Nope, he's not, because he's in the next. It's very like, how can Matt possibly say he doesn't kill people when like there's many fights in Daredevil's history where he's definitely
probably should have killed some.
They're definitely at least like horrifyingly maimed.
Yeah.
Comatose.
That's when we get the Punisher wrist tattoo, and I was like delighted. I was so excited because that's one of my favorite things in the world is people misunderstanding the Punisher and putting stickers on stuff that
I don't understand how people get it so wrong.
So a lot of people think that man with gun shoot bad guy, man with gun shoot bad guy, man good, essentially, right?
I do like the tracking of Matt Murdock screaming. So he does the scream at the beginning of episode 1 when he's with Bullseye, he does a scream, right? And then when Bullseye is sentenced to life in prison, he does like the silent one. He does like the like that, like completely quietly, and then he does it again he does it in full volume at the end of episode 2, and I was like, that's my boy.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? There's a couple of things they set up in episode 2 also with this new woman, the therapist.
Yes.
And then also that weirdo guy who goes to that therapist and says, "Can you take me on as a client?" And she says, "Okay, I guess."
That's gonna be Muse. No, what is that?
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I totally forgot that character's coming in.
Yeah, because it seems like they don't have a lot of time.
I think Muse is supposed to be like the primary antagonist too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know, right?
So I'm related to one of the creators of that character, and I just remember seeing him post about it on Facebook, like, oh, like one of the primary antagonist of this show will be Muse, who I created, and
yeah, I think
that's why
always,
I'm thinking like he's the primary character.
First of all, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Second of all, I think it's always Fisk, right? It's, after all, it's always Fisk, right? Looming. But yeah, I think that Muse is going to be Fisk is like bad for the universe, and I think Muse is going to be bad for Daredevil, right? Because of course he has to put the suit back on at some point,
right?
And I don't know what it's going to take. I'm interested to see what it's going to take, but I also think that, and look, I'm not a therapist. I've had a therapist, but I'm not a therapist. I think if someone comes to your book signing and says, "I need help," are you taking on new patients? I don't think the response is, "Here's my email." I think the response is like, "Let's get you 51. Like, that's a person that needs to be like, that's a crisis situation."
Yeah.
I don't think I would give, I think we'll move things around. "Here's my email" was like a crazy response. That's a wild response to, "I need help. Are you taking on new patients?"
Yeah.
Specifically you. I'm like, don't care for that. And then when at the end of the episode, when she was like, "Oh, I can't make it to dinner, I have a new patient," I was like, "Oh, here," and then I was like, "Oh,
yeah,
that was a bait." I thought it was gonna be this creepy guy.
Hmm.
The Fisks, Vanessa and Wilson, Vanessa mentions a guy named Adam, right? Some sort of betrayal, some sort of thing. It doesn't clearly state that she cheated on him, right? That's what we're supposed to think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It
I didn't.
frames it like she cheated on Wilson with a guy named Adam.
Yeah.
But it doesn't say anything that really cements that.
Right. He
No.
says, I know about Adam. And then she says, importantly, don't kill him.
Yeah.
I would have maybe said, don't hurt him.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, but Wilson Fisk is the type of guy who would be like, I won't hurt him.
yeah, no, I think I won't kill him,
Kill
but
him. Like,
right. I'll do it painlessly,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
You have to be like, do not hurt and or kill him.
Yeah. I was trying to do my Wilson Fisk impression. It just takes a long time. He talks so slow.
Yeah.
When I
Yes.
was a boy.
It's
It's
actually
like,
pretty
okay.
good.
It's sad because I like the Vanessa Fisk dynamic, but it's not grounded for me yet. I don't know what to make of it yet. Like
Mm.
the Fisk going to therapy with the couples counseling, I'm like, I get that. Like he's trying, everything's about Vanessa, right? He's trying to make it work with Vanessa. I don't know, maybe I need to see more of them in therapy. But I don't know what her deal is. Like I know the whole she's having conflicting thoughts about him being back, because she was running the business and it was going really well. That's another plot that I'm like, that's not fully cooked yet.
Yeah.
For me, I don't know. I'm not totally invested in what's going on there yet.
First things first, Vanessa, super hot, always has been, always will be. But I do want to just throw that out there, if you didn't know where I stood, that's where I stand.
Good to know.
What was it? Now I've forgotten what I was gonna say. With the two. Oh, I know what I was gonna say. Are we to believe that Wilson Fisk does not know that his therapist is dating Matt Murdock? Come on.
No, I think he knows that.
He knows. He has to, right? This has to.
Yeah.
So are they there
Yeah.
for Heather, or are they there because they're actually going to couple counseling?
I think it's both. I think he wanted to find, he was being pressured to get Vanessa back into things. Oh, let's happen to use Matt Murdock's girlfriend as our counselor. I think that he knows, and it's just another way to keep tabs on him.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Yeah. Or this is a stunt with both the Fisks in on it. Like they are purposely there to needle Heather for whatever ends. I don't know.
Or are they both needling her separately?
Maybe.
Like they're both needling her for info eventually on Matt, but they're not in, because their communication is off right now.
Yeah. Does Vanessa know about Matt?
Yeah, she was there.
Yeah, she does.
She was there.
Okay.
Yeah, she was there.
Okay. Interesting. So, okay. We get this character of Heather, and are you guys liking her, not liking her? She doesn't do much.
I feel like she's just kind of there at the moment. I'm hoping it'll build more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay. I liked their meet cute, right? Where
Kirsten.
That was funny.
We're set up by Kirsten. I do think Matt needs a therapist, though. I was like, why don't we just have you be her therapist? I don't think she's had enough time. A lot of people are talking about how they don't have any chemistry, and I was like, as someone that deeply hated the Matt Karen dynamic, I like yearning. There was too much yearning. There was too much getting really close and smelling. I am. I don't know if I want to go on record as being I shipped Elektra and Matt.
Yeah.
But
I did.
They're fucking, right? Karen and Matt, I'm like, you guys are kissing. It was very school dancey. right? Like the
Yeah. I think Karen and Matt definitely worked better when they were just friends.
Yeah.
I liked them a lot as friends because I mean, I know you said you don't like Karen. I like Karen as a character, but I like her as his friend. Like him and Elektra just made more sense to me. Also, look at Elektra.
I mean, every woman in the show is great.
everyone's incredibly attractive.
So
Also, the actress that plays Heather's was from The Acolyte.
Was she?
Oh my God, you're right.
She played the worst character in The Acolyte.
Who was she? She
She
was
was Mother Coral.
Oh, the other one, not
Yeah.
What's Jodie Turner
Smith,
but the other
yeah.
one?
The other one, yeah, her wife, her space wife.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. You're right.
Yeah, I forgot about that too. What was I gonna say? Which is also, so adding to this is that, by the way, is it Kirsten or Kirsten?
Where does the I go?
Is
the I before or
K-I-R.
after the R? K-I-R. I would say Kirsten.
Who's Kirsten?
I mean, there's Kirstens that are also K-I-R.
Oh.
You know?
Oh, good point.
Yeah. Anyway, she's a love interest of Matt in the comics.
Mm-hmm.
Not a love interest of Foggy. So
I like her too.
Yeah. But we need to see more, right?
No, I do, but I do feel like we've seen more of her than we have of Heather.
Yeah. Because of this episode.
She did good. She did good in court. I liked her in court this episode.
Yes.
They worked well together, and I really like that. You can kind of see why they have a practice together and why they work well together.
Yeah. Let's talk about this episode just being essentially a wall-to-wall law drama, right? It's a courtroom drama. Were you guys bored?
No.
I wasn't either.
I mean, it didn't feel like what I would expect out of a superhero show, but I like a good courtroom drama. And I mean, that's at the core. I mean, that's a big part of who Matt is. So it was nice to see him really in his element work-wise.
Yeah.
In his element, and yet somehow like being like so unethical, but still so good at his job. Like bringing up the vigilante stuff, like pivoting once the informant didn't do it, and then being like, well, I guess I'll have to say that he's a white tiger without checking with anyone.
Yeah, that
was going against the agreement I made. It was like, but that was wild, and I'm glad it worked out for them.
It wasn't cool though.
Temporarily. Yeah, it was not a cool thing to do. But that's Matt. Like a lot of what we've seen Matt do in the courtroom is like not chill.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it was hard for me because my favorite thing to rewatch is the first like 4 episodes of season 2 of Daredevil. Actually, all of season 2, if I'm being honest. But
I like season 2 of Daredevil. People talk shit on it, but like I love
it.
I like
the Hand. I like season 2.
I like the Hand and Punisher and Elektra and everything. I like it.
Yeah. No, season 2 is great.
It was impossible for me, especially when he started doing the vigilante stuff, when he brought that in, to not think about the trial of Frank Castle. Like, so it was hard not to compare the two, because that's one of my favorite episodes of TV like ever. It was hard not to compare the two, especially with the way that Matt is just so selfish in both of them and so preachy about vigilantes. Like he's it's like a speech he gives himself in the mirror, right? Like doing good for the community and blah blah. And I'm like, oh my god, get over it, Matt. Like we understand, like that he's but I like that felt very true to his character. It put me right back in the place where he was arguing for Frank Castle, talking about, you know, the good that vigilantes do. And I thought that when he was you know, asking Hector the questions, it was really impactful. You know, he kept saying, you know, it was the right thing to do. And then hilarious that the closing statement from the DA was like, well, he could do bad stuff too. And I was like, that's your case. But like you have one eyewitness who's a cop and no other evidence. And your closing argument is just because he saved a bunch of people doesn't mean he wouldn't just viciously attack one guy. And it's like, that's bad. You did it bad.
Also, that's the argument against the cop. You know what I mean? Like that's
right.
Just because the guy's a cop doesn't mean he can't beat this informant in a subway station.
Yeah.
Also hilarious when they had to bring up like, Your Honor, he didn't have his mystical amulet, and I was like, I love that that's just a statement you can make.
I like that it's.
But I like that they brought that around in a way, because at first he said that. At first, Hector said, well, it doesn't matter. It's not relevant that I'm White Tiger because I didn't even have my amulet, right? And then they said, when they were trying to convince the judge, it's not relevant because he didn't have his suit or his mystical amulet. I got a little chuckle out of that. But bringing it back around to say, if he's a superhero and he has a mystical amulet that gives him powers, why would he go attack someone without his amulet? And I was like, oh shit. Good point, Matt. Like, that's a good point. And I was like, oh, that's why we mentioned the mystical amulet so many times. I appreciate that.
I have 2 points when it comes to this thing. First thing is, this episode kind of got rid of my apprehension of whether this could live up to the Netflix show in that courtroom, gritty, real sort of way. I'm not saying that this whole series is on par with the Netflix show. I need to see it kind of come to fruition a little bit more. But like, the idea is that they dedicated a whole episode to this courtroom, essentially, right? And I thought that was like really important thematically, especially for the show. And the second thing is, I know that She-Hulk was a comedy, and I did like She-Hulk, but I would have loved more actual courtroom drama from She-Hulk. And that just, like, this superhuman law is so interesting, especially at this early stages of superhuman law, like in the MCU, because although the heroes have been around for 10 years, like, they're still like, oh, yeah, guy has an amulet on the street. Like, we're not in, oh, they're shapeshifters pretending to be other people. Like, that hasn't fed into superhuman law yet. So I like this episode for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked the I thought it was funny in the Kingpin speech when he kind of name dropped Spider-Man.
What
and
did
then
he
in
say?
this episode they said Officer Morales, and everyone's like, oh my god, Officer Morales, that's Miles' dad. And I'm like, okay, it's a really common last name.
Also,
he said,
depending on how they do
saying,
his dad doesn't have the last name Morales.
He changed his name.
Yeah.
He changed his name to that.
Yeah. Sometimes. In
the comics. Yeah.
Yeah.
In some versions of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said we don't need vigilantes, like we don't need men with guns and skulls on their heads, on their chests, or guys who dress up in spider suits, or guys with devil horns. And I think it's just so funny that they like, how did Spider-Man catch that stray? Like, Spider-Man, who's going around, like, we don't need Punisher, right? He's murdering so many people. And then that little fuck with the,
well, it's the Daily Bugle.
Suit, like,
it's the Daily Bugle.
What is he doing? Like, yeah, those are equal menaces, right? Punisher and then Spider-Man, and
he's
that teenager who's putting people in. Like, come on, man! Like,
yeah,
I can just imagine Spider-Man. Like, what?
Well, to be fair, Spider-Man was accused of murder at one point.
That's true.
Yeah.
But Frank Castle's like bathing in people's bloods, and he's on the witness stand saying, "I'll do it again because I liked it." Like,
John Bernthal,
he's just
so good
relatable.
As Punisher.
Just a great handshake too. He gives a good handshake. I don't know if you know, I've touched John Bernthal's hand. Oh my God. Lovely handshake.
And then you said you met Charlie too, right?
And I met Charlie. Charlie gave me a hug though, so I don't know what his
handshake was same. Like. I met Charlie this summer.
Oh, he's like the nicest person. And I had my head shaved. I'd shaved my head because I gave myself such a bad haircut. I shaved my head. And he told me he liked my hair, and I was like, well, nobody can say anything to me ever again.
That's cute.
So
I showed up dressed as Spider-Man, and I gave him a brick with a piece of newspaper that said, "We believe Mysterio."
When
he's holding it up in the picture.
When do we think we're getting Punisher?
Okay, so I mean, let's tackle this police Punisher, skulls, tattoos. What's going on here? That's gonna lead Matt once somebody's gonna point it out, the skulls, because Matt can't see the skulls. So at some point, somebody's gonna be like, there was a guy. One of the cops has like the full skull tattoo on his neck, which I don't know is regulation. Every department has different regulations, but
I feel like a neck tattoo is like cops have tattoos, but like
Yeah.
a neck tattoo seems a bit much.
yeah.
I feel like, because the clip that we've seen of Punisher is him like coming at Matt with like a hatchet or something.
Yeah, with a
So
beard,
I'm
right?
wondering,
He has a beard.
yeah, and he has a beard. So I'm wondering if he sure does. I'm wondering if what's going to happen is Matt is going to hear about this happening to Hector and is going to go try to find Frank.
Well,
And then it's going to be like a
intermediary
how
step. He's
would
gonna
you
find the
think?
guy, and then
Yeah.
right.
Well, if it's reported that a guy that, I mean, obviously we didn't see the guy's face for a reason, and the reason that that's not fucking Punisher.
That
right?
was not.
That was not. There's no way.
No.
I think, yeah, it's either going to be he finds the guy. Well, I don't know. Either Frank's going to find out that someone dressed as Punisher did this, or Matt's going to find out and go find Frank.
Yeah.
But either way, it seems like it is a confrontational thing that's then going to become Frank kind of learning that people are doing this in his name, and then we'll find out.
It's
happens.
funny how there's 3 continuities right now. There's our real world, then there's the comics, then there's this. When it comes to the skull with cops, with Punisher, like real world influenced the comics, which are now influencing the MCU, right? And I feel like, so just a short history of this is that cops in real life have the Punisher skull. Marvel doesn't like this because Marvel's like, we can't be for this, like this whole thing. Marvel in the comics decides to make a new Punisher logo for Punisher in a storyline where he gets the power of the Beast, and the Beast is a hand. It's like a hand demon from Daredevil. So then Punisher has this like skull of the Beast on his shirt. Then he dies. He just like books it to another dimension or something, right? Whatever. So Punisher is out of the picture. Then there's a new Punisher that's a SHIELD agent, ex-SHIELD agent, who has the skulls, and he's using more tech-based things, not so much like just ripping people apart. These are all the comics, right? And I figure at some point Marvel was going to try to get the skull back. And they have to essentially do a real-world campaign to like disassociate the Punisher skull and the Punisher character from people who are doing vigilante stuff in real life or brutality in real life, right? Like, am I off on this?
No,
Am I going crazy with my
no,
board
that makes
in the back?
No, it makes sense because they did it comics wise, and now they have to do it for people that just watch the shows.
Right.
Of like, don't. There was a quote, I was trying to find it, a quote that John Bernthal said about Punisher. I don't know if he was talking about like the special that they're going to do or the Daredevil show, but I was confused because I saw the thing that he said was something like, we're going to turn our back on the audience. He said, it's going to be dark. It's not going to be easy. The version of the character deserves. So I just tried to look up the quote, and the website that I read on said, we're going to tell a Frank Castle story. We're not going to turn our back on the audience, but I heard him say we are going to turn our back on the audience.
Okay.
And I'm like, if that's what he's saying, the idea that we're going to tell people don't use the Punisher symbol for that. But I do think it is also, I mean, these are clearly corrupt cops and horrible people, as opposed to like, I think some of them, I saw at San Diego Comic-Con last year, I saw someone with the Punisher sticker that was an American flag on the Punisher skull. Oh boy, that, holy moly.
Tell me you missed the plot without telling me.
But that person probably has never murdered anyone. right? And it's
Every
probably not a
home.
corrupt cop. They're probably just someone that doesn't understand things, right? So I think they are making it very black and white of like these people that are doing things in Punisher in his name are like very corrupt and evil. So obviously Punisher would have a problem with it, as opposed to the way it was in the comics was just like these people that work for the system that doesn't work. That the only reason
Yeah.
Punisher exists is because they're not doing it right. You know, the system doesn't work and you're using my symbol. What I'm trying to say, I'm doing what I do because you guys can't.
Yeah.
Whereas this time it's like evil cops.
Yeah.
Just like every cop.
Here's the thing though, is also, and I
I'm
see
still
it on,
interested. I still got,
what'd you say?
I'm still excited for that they're gonna kind of take it in that direction.
Yeah.
Like in real life, I am very excited that Marvel is taking it in this direction. Because it's almost like the only way
Yes.
you can enact actual like changing minds is like through this media, which I think is very interesting. Like this is almost like a PR campaign for Marvel, but not to distance themselves from it, but
Yeah.
also to be like, we gotta like agree what the Punisher is and what cops should be, right? And I think that like
Yeah.
people on TikTok, they'll sometimes talk out of their ass. I know it's unheard of,
No.
but sometimes. Uh, and they'll post that
What?
Punisher hates cops. And I don't agree. Punisher doesn't hate cops. Punisher hates corrupt cops. Punisher would treat a corrupt
Yes.
cop very similar way as a corrupt teacher. If both of those people, those corrupt individuals in different occupations, were touching kids or running drugs or being brutally abusive to whoever was in their charge, the Punisher would treat them the same, right?
Yeah.
They're both criminals. They're both bad guys that should be off the street in the way that Punisher does things. So Punisher doesn't hate cops. He hates corrupt cops. And he hates, by extension, the fact that, like, if a cop is using his skull logo, they are, by definition, corrupt cops. It's just the way it works. It'd be like idolizing Bullseye. Like, why would you? You know?
Yeah.
Which is also more reason that he would never shoot Hector Ayala in the head.
He wouldn't.
Like, that man is as far from corrupt as you can get. Like, they made him repeat that he did it because it was the right thing to do, like 8 times. And we're like, yeah, Punisher would kill him. Like, what?
Here's a question for both of you. Is the guy who shot Hector Ayala dressed as the Punisher to frame Punisher, or dressed as the Punisher because he is the Punisher, quote unquote?
I took it as the last. When you say is, like, you mean like a cop that's idolizing him.
Yeah, a cop that is now the Punisher.
Okay.
In a way.
Okay, that's what I saw it as. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I think they like I think they put those on and do stuff to be like, yeah, they're cosplaying essentially.
Yeah. No, I don't think they're trying to frame him.
Yeah, I don't think it's to frame him, and I don't think they want to officially take on the mantle. I think it's more like, when I do what needs to be done, I have to take off my cop uniform and put on my Punisher uniform, and it's like, ew.
Yeah.
But I also think it's important that we saw the guy with the Punisher neck tattoo in the courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, it's not just a one-off; it's kind of like
a gang.
little gang they got going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was actually my idea, you know, that they're utilizing.
What, to kill vigilantes?
No. Like, I came up because I was talking about it on a previous episode of something or another about how does Marvel get the Punisher thing back, and my idea was essentially have a gang of cops take on the mantle, and Punisher comes at them and makes a public display of, I do not stand for that, I stand for this, and this is also nutso, but it's not that.
Yeah.
Right?
I will also say, if we don't get Frank Castle next week, it's going to be excruciating, because
Poor Sara.
I love him so much, but the whole this entire episode, like putting him on trial, putting the vigilante thing on trial, such like a nice like inversion of when they were putting Punisher on trial, of like, oh, he's guilty, and we're trying to use the vigilante thing to make us like maybe life in prison and not execution, right? As opposed to Hector, who is a good vigilante doing it out of just the good of his heart, right? That was such a nice inversion of the people versus Frank Castle. And then that conversation that he was having, I'm gonna cry, at the very beginning about the beach and the frogs that like tourists think it's annoying, but they're singing and they make for life. It reminded me so much of the conversation that Frank and Matt have in the cemetery when he's talking about his daughter. That makes me, I've seen it like 20 times. It makes me cry every time when he's talking about how he was too tired to read the story to her. And there's the great interview with John Bernthal and Charlie Cox where he says that there's a tear that rolls down. He was like, no, I was just sweaty from carrying him. And that's what that's what the water that comes down is, just him sweating. So that's like a nice laugh I get while I'm crying to that. So like that, and Matt just sitting and listening to him tell that story in the same way that he sits and listens to Frank, like everything was so like, remember those really important times you have with Frank Castle. And I don't know if it's just for me because that storyline is so dear to my heart. And maybe people were like, I was not, everyone else might be like, I was not thinking about that at all. You just like Frank Castle too much, which could be the case. But for me, a lot of this stuff was like the inversion of Frank and Matt's relationship, and the way that played out for them. And it reminded me so much of like the bizarro like universe version of the people versus Frank Castle. So I think if he doesn't show up next episode, like it's like the edging is like, come on guys, like this is, we saw the tattoo, we saw another tattoo, and then we've escalated to seeing the actual vest. Like if we don't get Frank by the end of next episode, I'm gonna like start to get a little,
chances are we will, right? If I'm thinking about this logically, in the beginning, next episode we're gonna all know that Hector died. Everybody's gonna know. And then the question is, how did he die? Somebody at the scene reported somebody with a skull on their chest. Boom. Matt goes to track down Frank. And we get Frank. Like, it has to happen next episode, I think.
Yeah, and then somehow we have to get to Muse. Like an incredibly complicated character. I haven't read any comics with him in them, but as I understand it, Muse is a pretty complex character. So I'm interested in how we're gonna like.
I didn't read that part.
Get that started.
I didn't read that part of that run. I'm looking up Muse, but I'm only getting the band.
Oh.
I know one song by that band.
It's something. It reminds me of Hannibal.
He's a serial killer artist.
Yeah, and he like paints. He like paints with people's blood. He like drains people for their blood and then paints murals with them.
I love.
Interestingly, when we saw Fisk get elected, we did see a mural being painted, and they mentioned, I think in episode 1 in the news broadcast, like, you've seen colorful murals popping up around town. Like they've mentioned something about murals popping up around town enough for it to be on the news. So they're planting the Muse seeds. But it seems like, so he's out, he's painting, he's going to Heather and saying, please help me. She's busy with Fisk, and so he's gonna start murdering people. I don't know, but it's interesting to like put it into all. I'm just excited to see him because his costume looks so dope.
Yeah.
And I already have the WonderCon cosplays of Muse. I already I already have one friend that I know is doing it for sure, who's
Oh, nice.
his muse is crazy.
Okay.
I'm very excited to see that costume as well.
Yeah. I'm excited to see where this goes. My only sadness is that even if all 9 episodes are amazing or gets to be like just an amazing season, it's not as long as even a Netflix season, which is shorter than an actual like full TV show season.
Yeah.
So like, but at least it's longer than a 6-episode MCU show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard a lot of people kind of complaining or saying like, if it was season 4 of Netflix, then the first episode Froggy would have been killed, and then we would have spent the whole season with Matt reckoning with that instead of doing the 1 year later. And I'm like, yeah, that's because it was supposed to start 1 year after Foggy died. We weren't even supposed to see Foggy die, so
Yeah.
it seemed weird to do a time jump. I mean, I do still think if they would have like killed Foggy off screen, I would have been like, you really just killed off Foggy and then turned it into a line about, oh yeah, your friend that died.
Yeah, that's why I'm glad they did do that
Yeah.
first episode, even if it was messy.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they were 13 episodes in the Netflix era. Now it's 9, so it's not. I don't know why it's not 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make things 10 episodes again.
Because it was probably supposed to be 8.
It was supposed to be 18.
Oh, but they split
It
it
was
into
supposed to be
2 seasons.
one. It was supposed to be one 18-episode season, and then they split it into 2 seasons.
Well, because Disney
Oh.
Plus has never had that long of a run because they try not to make their Marvel and their Star Wars shows overlap. So right when this ends, Andor begins.
Oh, Andor's coming back.
The week after this show ends. And
Okay.
Andor, they're only doing it for 4 weeks instead of 12, which is fair.
Are they releasing
They're
multiple episodes at once?
They're dropping 3 episodes at a time.
So, and because they classically do 3-episode story arcs for Andor, they're going to be essentially 4 movies in a way to finish this off.
Weird.
And Tony Gilroy did an interview recently where he apologized to podcasters about that. So
Oh, I
He was like-
will accept his apology, I guess.
he was like, "I'm
That's
sorry, it's going to
fun.
be hard on people that podcast about the show." And I'm like, it is.
Are you going to be doing an after show?
So I brought the after show back for Daredevil and for Andor because both of them I think are worth talking about. Whereas Secret Invasion after show that we did, I was like, I wanted a piece out.
You got locked into watching that whole show, whereas I stopped after like 3 episodes.
I mean, you can finish
I just never finished it.
but anyway,
Well,
Andor
time you
though,
can't
I
get
just have
back.
no idea when each episode's gonna start and then end, so I can set a start time for the podcast. But we will figure it out. Where do you guys see this going? Daredevil. Are we gonna see Karen Page pop back up again? What are our thoughts for episode 4 and beyond?
Is it okay if I say my mind is just blank?
Yeah.
I kind of just want to see how things play out. I haven't really thought much into where I think the rest of it's going, other than I do think Punisher is going to come in. I know Muse is going to come in. I'd like to see Karen come back.
I think if Punisher is going to play a major role, Karen has to come back at some point, given their history, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine Karen, Karen Punisher Frank relationship is pretty important as well. I mean, I don't care if I ever see Karen again. I feel bad, and I'm not like,
The Karen hate is strong.
again, I just don't, there's something about it that I don't like. I've never really been a fan. Again, I love Deborah Ann Wall. I think that her performance is good. I don't like the way that the character is.
Fair.
It's like, I think she's plucky. I think she's like, nah, I'm a reporter now, and I'm like, okay.
She's better than the comic book version, who really didn't do much and then got weird and then died. So,
I'm hoping for Frank. Nice, please.
Yeah.
I like that it seems like Kingpin is getting more like uh like aggressively uh evil, not evil, but like it's getting a lot more nefarious. The miscarriage of justice, right, thing. I was like, oh, again, this is topical in a way I don't really enjoy, but at the same time, I like that we're leaning into it. I want to find out who is he beating up and
Yeah.
why.
How much do you
Yeah,
want?
I mean, yeah, is come in. If they have that be more of a slow burn, I'm okay with that as well, because it seems like that's kind of an intense character. So you can't, I don't think you can jump right in.
I mean, if
him.
a focus
So,
of
I'm excited.
now, mind you, I don't know much about the character of Muse. If the focus of his character within this show is that he's like an antagonist, I'm almost wondering. I know I'd like to see it like as like he's like I know he's a serial killer. I'd like to see him as like a vigilante serial killer, and then obviously that will result in like some sort of face off between him and Fisk, and then also somehow Daredevil.
I mean, it'd be too similar to the Punisher if you make him a vigilante serial killer. Again, like,
Yeah, true.
well, what I think is, and I'm looking at the Muse entry on Wikipedia. First thing, I think Wilson Fisk is going to push an anti-vigilante act, and I think that could be a cool storyline to see go further than just Daredevil. But for Spider-Man, for like all the other heroes in New York, I think it might be cool to have anti-vigilante restrictions for New York. It's different than the Superhuman Registration Act, which was for the whole world. But even currently in the comics, they I think just got done with the anti-vigilante act in New York City. But I was reading the Wikipedia entry. Essentially, Muse is making Punisher graffiti, and this could happen in the show, could not. He's doing Punisher graffiti on a wall. Police officers come in to tell him to stop. He kills the officers, makes them part of the painting, and then Wilson Fisk blames Punisher for that.
Oh, shit.
And that happens in the comics. And so
That is brutal.
Could be.
I like it.
They're borrowing a lot from that storyline, right? With Wilson Fisk being mayor, being anti-vigilante. I don't know. It's interesting. But we shall see where this show goes.
I'm interested to see. I'm interested to see how Matt gets the suit back on. I'm interested to see what pushes him to that.
And what suit?
Because he seems to be pretty self-righteously like, I'm doing so good now.
Yeah, I don't
like,
miss it at all.
When he was talking to Hector, yeah, I don't miss it at all. You're gonna be surprised at how easy life is just not putting the suit back on. And I was like, you know what, hun? Whatever, bless your heart. Like whatever you say.
The Nile is a river in Egypt.
Yeah. So clearly it's top of mind for him. I'm interested to see what gets him back in it.
I think it'd be a nice change of pace if Punisher is the one that essentially helps him like through therapy in a way. If Punisher helps him put the suit back on and be healthier at it, I think that'd be a cool twist.
Yeah.
Great.
But also in the trailer, you see a room with multiple Daredevil masks.
Yeah. Are we gonna get what's his name? Damn it, I forgot his name. Who's this little guy that makes him the
the bald guy who,
yeah.
I forget, but he's a villain.
Melvin.
Yeah, Melvin.
I did it without looking it up.
Good.
Yeah, Melvin Potter, I think his name is.
Yeah. I want more like rando throwaway villains and stuff. It'd be nice, but who knows? I think that's it. Is that it for the episode? I mean, I feel like we could keep talking, as I know you guys like to do. Me, I never have anything to talk about, and I don't talk that much. So, It's really just you guys.
Shame.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for coming on, being a co-host, being the world's greatest co-host.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know if my internet is getting spotty or not, but world's greatest co-host is what I said. And Cailin, thanks so much for coming on and being the world's greatest guest.
Well, thank you. I always appreciate being here.
Cailin, where can people find you online? What do you got coming up? Anything you want to plug?
Well, as opposed to every other time I've been on here, you can find me at cailin.in.character, my recent name change. I'm on TikTok and Instagram. I'm happy to be back on TikTok because I was one of the people that deleted the app.
Oof.
So I could not get it back for a while. What do I have coming up? I kind of fallen off cosplay for a little bit last year. I'd taken a break from making new cosplays, but I'm definitely getting back into it this year. I've got a couple book cosplays that I'm working on. So I've been definitely trying to get more into that realm with bookish characters. So yeah, that's what I've got two different ones that I'm currently working on, and I'm very, very excited. I have given like sneak peeks of one of them. But I've got more pieces for it now. So I'm excited to do more with both of those.
Awesome. I can't wait to see more of your cosplays because they're always great. And I keep seeing a picture of you with elf ears.
Yes, that's my newish, my more recent cosplay that I've kind of been teasing at. It's a character that it's from a book that nobody talked about, and I'm trying to get everybody in the world to read it.
Okay.
So that's Livia from the Ever King.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
It is one of my all-time favorite books by L.J. Andrews, and it's actually an independently published book, but it has been removed from all platforms now because it's being traditionally published later this year. So yeah, she's finally been picked up by a publisher, and so she has a bunch of books coming out this year. She's republishing her first 3 books from the Everseas before continuing that series. And then she has a brand new series actually coming out next month, and I've been not very patiently waiting for that book.
All right.
So,
well, good luck.
Thanks.
Caring about books is tough. Like, because you love books and then they're adaptations of whatever.
Yeah. Well,
but
there's nothing on the horizon for this being adapted yet, which like I would definitely have mixed feelings if that were to be announced. I mean, I definitely have mixed feelings about Fourth Wing right now. Like, are they going to cast properly? Is a big concern. I don't know. I feel like if anybody could pull it off, as far as like how the show would go, it would be Amazon. But I don't know. We'll see.
All right.
Yeah, there's been a lot of.
I love how attached you are to books and how detached I am to books. So.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was a huge reader as a kid. It's like new in the last year and a half that I've gotten back into books in the capacity that I have.
Yeah. All right. Cailin.in.character. Thanks so much.
Yeah, it's because of books that I felt I needed a revival with my username.
That's fair. Because it used to be Comics by, right?
Yeah, Comics by Cailin. Because at the time, particularly my TikTok content was pretty much anything related to comics, whether it was cosplaying comic characters, talking about comics, talking about movies and TV shows based on comics, art of comic characters. So it all tied back to comics, but I feel like my content has evolved from just comic book characters to now include bookish content and just me as me.
Yeah.
So I felt like Cailin in character kind of fit that better.
All right. Cool.
Needed a rebrand.
Sara, on the other hand, so childish, dressing up like Mandalorian.
How dare I? It's the anime characters.
The
worst.
Sara, where can people find you? What do you got coming up? Anything you want to plug?
Yeah, you can find me at Ms_Marauder on Instagram and TikTok. We will be con crunching for WonderCon the next 2 weeks. Haven't totally started on our WonderCon cosplays, but we'll be there Saturday with a little skeleton crew, hopefully.
Cute.
And we'll also be there as mini Paul Atreides and the Sandworm. So come find us. We will be giving away, we'll be giving out water of life, which is just blue Gatorade. But we'll be handing out samples of the water of life. And hopefully I'm trying to do something ambitious with Evie is going to be KB from Skeleton Crew. And I'm getting to not say what I'm going to be because I'm attempting something and I hope I can do it. But if not, I'll just be walking around with her.
Okay. All right. I can't wait to see both of you guys' cosplays. I'll be at WonderCon, and I'll also be at C2E2 in Chicago, where I will be hosting and producing my Geek Trivia game show at the con itself. And so that's actually a month from today, because today is March 11th. That'll be April 11th. So, if you're in Chicago, catch me there. You could also catch me online personally on Instagram at This Is Dimithri. But as far as the Keeg is concerned, whether it's the Daredevil Born Again After Show that we do, or Comic Talk on Thursdays, or Keeg Talks, or the Keeg Chats, or whatnot, we're doing a lot of stuff. Find us on TikTok and Instagram at The Keeg Show. We're also on like Blue Sky and Threads and all that stuff at The Keeg Show / The Keeg Show, pretty much everywhere. If you're watching us live, it was twitch.tv / The Keeg Show or youtube.com / The Keeg Show. And if you're listening to the podcast, wherever you get your podcasts from, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, SoundCloud, we're on all of those. If you're watching us or listening to us, let us know you're out there. Like, comment, subscribe, follow, write a review, do your thing. It's nice to know who is who's watching / listening. That's pretty much it. This show will be weekly, so it's going to be every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, after these Daredevil episodes drop. So we're going to be here next week, same Daredevil time, same Daredevil channel. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Thank you everybody out there for watching. Once again, I am your host, Dimithri Perera, and co-host
Sara Zitney.
And this has been another episode of the Daredevil Born Again After Show for episodes 1, 2, and 3. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Super strong or super fast. Gotta beat the boss and get the loot. Cause it's the king. And we got geek news.